This is Yet Another MBA G.O.A.T, a podcast featuring conversations with the greatest of all time MBA alumni from the Naveen Jindal School of Management at the University of Texas at Dallas. We're here to celebrate the outcomes of graduate management education and to identify remarkable examples of how the MBA program here at the Jindal School has transformed the lives of our alumni. Now, here's Dr. Monica Powell, Senior Associate Dean and Graduate Dean at the Jindal School. Take it away, Monica.
Well, hello there. We are so excited to have Ben Wilson with us. He is an individual that brings a really cool, transformative experience from the MBA to where he is today. So we're going to go from musician to mergers and acquisitions guru. So, Ben, welcome to the program.
I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
We are thrilled. You know, I was reflecting back on what it was like when you came into the program, and I somehow remember that you were involved in orchestra or...
Yeah.
So how does a guy who was involved in orchestra go all the way to become vice president at Bulkley Capital?
Right. So, yeah, a large part of it is coming to UT Dallas. So you're right. So as an undergraduate, I actually studied music, and I specifically was a saxophone player. But I majored in music business, and as part of that, took a handful of courses from the business school where I went to college, and really enjoyed that, but never had an opportunity to really apply that in my career. So when I graduated from West Texas A&M with a music degree, I then went on to work for a couple of different symphony orchestras, as you mentioned. So spent a year in Phoenix, Arizona, right out of school, and then wanted to come back to Texas and took a job with the Abilene Philharmonic Orchestra in Abilene, Texas, where I was the operations manager and director of education there.
So how do you make the transition from being an operations guy to say, man, I'm going to give all this up and I'm going to go to the big city and I'm going to get an MBA and I'm going to transform my career?
Sure. Yeah. Well, that was a tough decision. It was, at the time I was, like I said, working for a couple of different symphony orchestras. Those are nonprofit organizations. And I really liked what I did, but I looked around me, looked at the organization, realized that there was usually only one orchestra in a town, and I knew that my boss, the executive director of the Abilene Philharmonic, wasn't moving at any time in the future. And it kind of made me take a step back, look at that, and say, is this the life that I want, for the rest of my career? Do I want to work for an organization where moving up in my career usually means moving around geographically? And it was at a time in my life where I was kind of thinking about getting married, thinking about starting a family, and realizing that at some point I probably needed to settle down. And so that was kind of a logical thing at the time for me, was to say, is this what I want? And I came to the conclusion that what I wanted for the rest of my life was go back to business school and then start a different career.
Wow. I mean, that must have been a kind of a jolt to the psyche to think that I'm going to leave behind,
Sure.
music and all that I loved and what I studied, and I'm going to embark out into, the unknown land of an MBA.
Sure.
And you went to finance, of all things.
Yeah.
So you jumped from music to finance. I mean, how does somebody make that transition and fall in love with finance? I'm sure you don't sit around and bebop, financial models and all that kind of stuff like you might do, the saxophone.
Well, you might be surprised at the connections between, building financial models as one example and the creative processes involved in music. There's a great deal of creativity. I find a great deal of creativity involved in what I do now. Which is fun and engaging for me. I would go back to when I was growing up. My dad had his own kind of tax accounting practice, and I used to spend the summers up there helping him. With data entry and kind of, pretty rudimentary tasks, but got a taste for it. And really, I would say, I remember having a conversation with Lisa Schatz when I was going through the admissions process here at UT Dallas, where she asked me, what did I see myself doing 10 years out of school? And what I kept coming back to was I wanted to do something similar to what my dad had done, which was to help small, mid-sized businesses in all different fields, help them to accomplish the goals that they had. And fortunately, that's what I have, the ability to do now at the firm where I am at Bulkley Capital.
Yeah, Lisa Schatz is amazing. She was the director of the full-time MBA program while you were a student and has since been promoted to assistant dean and director of MBA programs. That was back in 2014. It's interesting because you really have climbed the ladder at Bulkley. I mean, it's really impressive. I mean, you started as an intern.
That's right.
During the MBA program, and then you went from an intern to an analyst to an associate to a senior associate, and now a VP at Bulkley. So that's an amazing career progression in a relatively short span of time. I mean, you graduated in 2011. That's less than 10 years.
Yeah, I've been fortunate at the firm where I am to have found a very good fit. Really enjoy the people that I work with, enjoy our clients.
Is it small? How big is it?
It is a small firm. So we have five professionals in our firm. So it's quite a small firm. And we work with clients who are generally, in terms of employees, anywhere from about 50 employees to a couple of hundred employees. In terms of revenue sizes, anywhere from generally around 20 million of revenues up to 400 or 500 million of revenues. So we are we're addressing a market that we call the lower end of the middle market, which I think is probably a unique perspective compared to most people who come through UT Dallas, and then probably most of the listeners of this podcast, is that we get to work with the small and mid-sized businesses that are a huge part of our economy, that a lot of people don't realize, necessarily what's going on at a lot of these small businesses.
So you guys are really niche. I mean, you focused in on what was your piece of the market, and you guys have really grown that. That's
right. And I would say specifically our niche is family-owned and founder-owned businesses, which is even as you say, a niche within that end of the market. So we have the pleasure to work with a lot of great companies, a lot of great management teams who are in all different industries. So our firm, what we do on a daily basis is we're a boutique investment bank or mergers and acquisitions advisor. So we are working with clients to raise capital and to affect transactions that have to do with the balance sheet. So most of the time that involves an acquisition of some sort. So we will advise our clients on the acquisition process if they're trying to make an acquisition, and they may be doing that for any number of reasons. We also help business owners and management teams when it's time to sell a business or if they've been approached by someone who wants to buy that business. So those are the types of transactions that we work with. It's a fascinating world. I don't think I'll ever get tired of it.
It sounds like it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
When you're sitting in your desk there at work every day and you reflect back on the MBA program, are there any specific kinds of memories that just sort of creep into your reality, like, oh my gosh, I really remember that from Robert Kieschnick's class, or wow, I really didn't expect I would ever use this, and I'm using this today.
Yeah.
Does that happen?
Absolutely. So I would say that two professors in particular, I think their classes were pretty influential for me and still have a large amount of influence on my daily life and what we do for our clients. And Robert Kieschnick would be one of them that you mentioned. So that was really my first taste of finance as part of the MBA journey. But also David Springate, who when I was here, taught several classes that I took, one of which was a private equity finance class. And that class in particular, but some of his others as well, were very influential for me.
When do you think you started to really believe that getting the MBA here at UT Dallas was really going to transform your life? I mean, you're kind of betting on it. You're leaving behind what you know, you're leaving behind what you love, and you're embarking on, the possibilities, the hope of really sending your life on a completely different trajectory. So at what point did you know that was going to happen for you?
Well, I still don't know if I know the full effects of it. It seems like, as I think back, it's kind of hard to imagine. I don't think I would have been able to forecast what my post-MBA life and career has been, but it's been great, and I wouldn't change a thing. I would say, that realization came to me probably during the internship process when I was kind of, interviewing at different places. Wound up at Bulkley Capital, and what the MBA provided for me as someone who was changing careers was that vote of confidence, or that kind of indication of credibility in the workplace that I'm not sure I would have been able to bring if I hadn't made that choice.
You probably don't know this from the folks that are down in the MBA programs office, but folks that come to us with musical backgrounds tend to be really, really successful.
Is that right?
There's just something about the analytical mindset of a musician and how that applies, especially in the area of finance. So it's really not surprising that you would say that finance is very creativity oriented, an opportunity to really explore different solutions, just like music is. So
Sure.
I'm glad that that finance is music to your ears in that sense.
Well, I think our firm, broadly speaking, is in the finance industry, but I think what we do for our clients is so much broader based. And there's a lot of creativity involved, and there's a lot of kind of big picture thinking involved. And I find that it incorporates a lot of the skills that I picked up during the MBA process. So not just the financial ones, but having an understanding of marketing principles, having an understanding of general management and strategy. And then I think in particular, having that kind of organizational behavior training, it has been largely maybe as influential on my career as any other subject, interestingly. So I don't think I would have said that if I, while I was here, but looking back on it, I'm certainly glad for.
Well, now that we have that, on audio tape, we're going to play that over and over for those prospects.
This episode is brought to you by the UT Dallas MBA program, top ranked nationally and in Texas. The UT Dallas MBA combines a robust core with 13 concentrations. You have an option to add a second master's degree, and your choices for that include 5 STEM-designated programs. The MBA program has full-time, part-time, online, and other formats. They give you flexibility to fit your MBA education into your busy schedule. The skills and training you will receive are what top employers are looking for. For more information, visit us online at jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.
But this is a funny world that we live in relative to the MBA itself.
Right.
If you look back to the 1990s, that was kind of the heyday of the golden MBA.
Sure.
And now we live in a time frame where people that are really successful in their careers are remembering the financial debacle of 2008 and 2009 and who was to blame but those people who had the MBAs that were there on Wall Street. But now a lot of folks really question whether or not the MBA is a legitimate choice in terms of really having an impact on their career. So if there are folks out there that are thinking about an MBA but think that it's just not so sexy anymore, or it's not the degree that's going to advance your career, what would you say to somebody, especially given that you didn't come from an undergraduate degree in business, you came from an undergraduate degree in music.
Right.
And so, for you made an enormous transition. But how do we sell people today on the notion that the MBA is still relevant? It still makes sense. It's still a good reason to step out of the workforce and really advance your skill set? Maybe
I'll take that question two different ways. One, kind of generally speaking, and where I think the MBA degree, what the place that holds in the current market is, and then also specifically to me, because I think those two answers are slightly different. Generally speaking, I think when you go to business school and when you go through an MBA program, and this is probably particularly important for those who participate in a full-time MBA program or in some in-person type program. So maybe that's part-time, maybe that's full-time. Or an executive MBA program. I think the opportunity to network with people from different backgrounds and who will eventually go into different areas is something that you can't get anywhere else. Most often, our interactions with others during our career are with people who are in a similar field to us or who have similar backgrounds.
It's a homogeneous experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like the experience of an MBA program to awaken you to the perspectives of people who are coming from different countries, coming from different cultures, coming from different backgrounds, of different age groups. And I think that's an important one as well. And people who have different sets of interests, different skill sets, people you can learn from, people you can teach, and people who will go any number of different directions in their career, and an alumni group, and really a group of friends and contacts that you can draw on for the rest of your career. Specifically for me, though, I think, and this would, as a career changer, The MBA was indispensable. I actually had a conversation that's relevant to this just the other day with a gentleman who works for a private equity group. We were talking, a colleague of mine whose daughter is considering getting an MBA at some point in her career was asking this gentleman if he thought an MBA was worth it. And he had, some good things to say and some bad things to say. But I think his, he looks at the MBA as giving someone a credibility that really only the MBA can provide. In his world, he does a lot of fundraising for private equity, and the MBA is certainly a checkbox that his investors need to see sometimes in order to, it gets them, it fast forwards the conversation.
It opens the door.
It opens the door.
Right.
It's the calling card that opens the door for him. And I would say for me, it's similar in some ways as a career changer. I don't think there's any other way I could have gotten the credibility that I did get outside of going to business school. And there are some things kind of on the fringes of my time here at UTD, participating in case competitions, trying to do as much project-oriented work as possible. I actually sat for the CFA exam. Those types of things, I think, add to the credibility, but the MBA is certainly the cornerstone of that.
We tell students all the time that if they come and all they do is engage in the classroom, then they're not getting everything that they paid for. Well, because it's what happens outside of the classroom that often enhances that knowledge, gives you a platform to practice your confidence-building skill set. So you said a case competition and some other engagements. Can you talk a little bit about what else you did other than go to class and study like a beast?
Well, I would say that the case competitions are probably some of the most formative things that I did here during my time at UT Dallas. Another one would be the business idea competition. So participated in that, and we got second place in that, which was fantastic. Those experiences are directly analogous to what I do today, working with a client on what effectively is a case. So in our world, the mergers and acquisitions, the transaction is like a case. And so we deal with imperfect amounts of information, just like you do in a case competition. You work on a team, just like you do in a case competition, and you have kind of a defined workflow or work process, and certainly a very tangible work product or deliverable that comes out of that. So the case competitions were invaluable, and I'm certainly glad to have had the encouragement to participate in those, and also glad to have had those experiences with my classmates.
It's interesting that you make that analogy to what you do today, but you're having to make a case to that organization as to why they should hire your firm to do the merger or the acquisition, and you don't always have all of the insider information and able to give them exactly the right proposition. So it really is all about selling in some way. Yeah,
that's right. There's certainly a large selling component to my job. You're right. When you come to business school and you are in a group of peers, there's a surprising amount of sales training that happens during that, kind of off the books sales training in terms of, hey, classmate, can you help me work on this project right now? And you're selling them on that idea. So
and selling them on the exchange of expertise.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'm going to be really great in finance and I can help you, but man, I just can't do this marketing. So it's all about negotiation in school and out of school. We always say to our MBAs, especially our full-time MBAs, that we're going to take credit for their accomplishments for the rest of their life. Because it's a good selling feature in terms on encouraging people to get an MBA, but we also feel like we're party to the successful journey of the student. So when you think back on the MBA and you think back not necessarily on the return on financial investment or the return on professional investment in terms of the confidence that you get, the ability to negotiate, the ability to sell, all of those things. But when you look back on it, how did it change you personally? And how would you be different today if you hadn't made the choice to come to UT Dallas and to have, we're a small program. We're not, this giant 500-person MBA program. We're a small program. We bring in 50 students a year. Right. So how has it changed you personally in a way that you just wouldn't have gotten? Now, obviously, you've made your dad very happy. But in terms of just a preparation or a change that wasn't part of the deal, wasn't part of what you were expecting.
Yeah, I think it's hard to know how much confidence you receive from participating in a program like the one at UT Dallas. I was part of the cohort program and, like I said, interacting with those who come from different backgrounds and with different skill sets, and being able to interact with them and being able to add to the conversation was something that, I think as I was entering the program, I was a little bit nervous or concerned that I might not be able to do that, right? I'm a music major. What do I know about business? Let me
get my saxophone out.
Exactly.
I can get us all to jive.
Exactly, yeah. So being able to, being able to just jump into the fray and be a real part of it. And I think I owe my classmates some, a debt of gratitude for allowing me to do that. But I certainly, and allowing me to learn from them and allowing me to teach them, because I think there were a lot of contributions that I was able to make, and that certainly helped build my confidence moving into the rest of my career.
So if I were to bring you an uncertain candidate right now,
right,
and you had 5 minutes to say, a couple of bullet points as to why they should think about UT Dallas, what would those short phrases be that you would say to that person?
Well, I would say, that they should make sure that UT Dallas is the right fit for them. You mentioned earlier that it's a small program, and for me, that was exactly the right fit. And I think it's the right fit for a lot of people. I think it's tempting to go to a larger program, maybe perhaps in another area of the country. I think UT Dallas has a lot to offer. The Dallas area is fantastic. UTD is the best school in Dallas. I'm convinced of that fact. One of the best schools in the country, really, and a program that's growing in reputation. And I would wholeheartedly recommend this program to anyone who is unsure about it.
Well, Ben, you are absolutely amazing. We're so proud of you. We are grateful that you'll take time to come and be a part of our podcast today. And we salute all of your accomplishments, and we cannot wait to watch and see what happens in the next 10 to 15 years of your career. So thanks for being with us this afternoon.
Well, thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to today's podcast. I hope that you were inspired by the words you heard from one of our greatest of all time MBA GOATs. If you were inspired to think about getting an MBA degree, I hope that you'll be in touch with us. Give us a call, drop us an email, hop on our website. Be in touch with us so that we can help you make a difference in your future. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Yet Another MBA GOAT podcast. Join us online at MBA.GOAT.com to find episode notes, links, and more. Be sure to subscribe to Yet Another MBA GOAT podcast on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star review. That will help spread the word about the podcast and the Jindal School's MBA programs. To learn more about the Jindal School's MBA programs, go to jindal.utdallas.edu/MBA.